How did you get so blessed, right?
Rochester.
Okay.
We're like,
We use
Less than
Zephyr
street.
Construction right here, they're right here.
I've used that for projects. Is they're usually too busy
Yeah,
for most of the time.
yeah, they're.
All right, 6 o'clock. Well, welcome to the meeting. We could call to order, roll call, identify yourselves and let us know who you're affiliated with.
Left to right or right to left.
Okay, Jim Freeman. I live up at Lakeland Village up there, and I've been in the water system business per se for 25 years or so, and glad to have this opportunity to maybe help out a little bit.
Scott Gordon, I'm from Tawana Falls Beach Club. I've been a board member out there and managing the water system for a little over 25 years now. So that's thought to come and see if I could help out with some decision making.
Jeff Carey, former water system owner. Board acquired our system last year. Been involved with the community planning one way or another since 97, 98. 1997, 98. And just have an interest in working through the different things of planning, and also serve on the planning advisory committee with the county. So I'm aware, like the 20-year planning and 6-year planning and things of that nature. So to start.
Well, I will suppose lead as the odd man out here as the executive director of the Port of Allyn and managing the water system currently. Well, normally this is our first meeting, of course, so it's kind of working through the motions of the agenda for the future. We will need to appoint positions of the commission. So moving on to item 3 on the agenda for approval of the agenda. Have any comments or amendments that would like to be discussed for an approval on the agenda?
I think for the first meeting, this is good enough. I mean, good start. So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. And I'm assuming we're using Robert rules and things like that, right?
I'll second it.
Yeah.
All in favor?
So out of curiosity, who calls that? I mean, is you?
So I would say that one of you 3 would determine who's going to
Okay, fine.
chair the meeting.
That's fine, that's fine.
I'm gonna take all the notes. I'm gonna do all the minutes. I'm gonna prepare everything on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I would say that you probably have the largest experience in meetings. Out of the members here on the board.
Sounds good to me,
Yeah, sounds
Jeff.
good to me.
What a sucker.
Yeah, good job.
Take that role on.
Well, they have to make a motion to nominate me, don't they?
Yeah, I would say so. So.
All right, I make a motion to nominate Jeff as chair.
I'll second that.
And how, prior to being the chair, how do you ask for the chair? You ask for a vote, or do you ask for a vote? I've never been at the very front of a meeting where the committee is brand new. It's always existed.
Well, somebody would nominate a chair.
Yeah.
And they nominated you,
Right.
and then it would be seconded, and then all in favor would.
They usually chair asks that, but
Right.
I'm not the chair yet.
Yeah, right. That's.
Well, you are now.
Yeah, okay. All in favor?
Approved.
All right.
Those against me. Okay, one down. Okay, so you want me to pick up the baton here?
Yeah, and then we can do the approval of the minutes. I can assist for. We don't have any minutes, so
Yeah.
this is the first meeting. So, and I just wanted to build an agenda that would look like all agendas going forward.
Sure.
So moving on from approval of the minutes, because next meeting we will have minutes from this agenda to approve.
Okay,
Public comment section, if there's any public comment that would be like to be had. Doesn't appear that we have any takers on Zoom. Yeah, Commissioner Judy Scott is here in her viewing capacity.
I guess I need to go, I'll go up there, and this is being recorded, right?
It is.
Okay, I just. Judy Scott, Port of Allen Commissioner. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. And I'm just here to support everybody for the first time. And thanks for taking this on. We need you. Thank you.
So you want, I'll take it from here then? Sure. Yeah, okay, fine. So any other public comment? And I can't see any other.
There's no one on, no one has joined us.
Okay. Moving on, reports, support staff reports, which would be you.
That would be me. Um. I can report that this month that revenues are up from
Okay.
a very low point. We processed a $69,000 check with housing Kitsap here yesterday. So we will be seeing that in our water fund account before next week's bill pay, but the majority of that is not available. It'll only be available in a invested capacity. A large portion of it is connection fees that are considered a deposit until they're actually, for notice to proceed is happens, and then after that, once they receive the meter, then the last half of that becomes officially reports without a chance of refund. But we do retain those funds until then, and we can invest those for getting interest in the state pool. So we also had about 11,500 in reimbursements come in from our drinking water state revolving fund loan, which is a reimbursement now for engineering that we paid for previously, but we will end up having to pay it back because it is a loan. But that won't, payments won't start on that until I believe October of this coming year. Later, I'll check the contract. As the contract didn't get signed for several months due to a scope change. And then you also see in the discussion items, we got the tank cleaning report, the 5-year sanitary survey report, and the DOH consolidation submission. We've been busy. I'll say that the majority of my time is tied up in the water system administratively.
But we'll address that.
Yeah,
Those further down,
absolutely.
okay.
Just bringing them up in
Yep.
the staff report. Also bring up the draft opinion that I wrote for the commission on some ideas about dealing with some of the unpaid billing practices from the previous administration. I would just read through that to kind of familiarize yourself. We're still consulting our legal authorities on next best steps for that. But other than that, that's all I've got.
Good. Committee reports, obviously. Or committee member reports, obviously at this point, we don't have any. So first meeting, financial report, I take it that's this one.
Yeah, that's the it's actually last month's, didn't have time to have our accountant bring up a new one.
Okay, got it.
But it's got a new color coding system with a description on those to kind of familiarize everyone, and we've broken the water fund and the general fund and not having them intermixed in the same report. So
Good.
this is just the water fund.
And then the second report, the list.
Second report is a list of our it's like kind of like a cash flow, 30, 60, 90 days past on billings that are yet to be recovered.
Of billing trial balance, so to speak.
Yes. That was part of our discussions with the commission about trying to find a route to solve this or come up with a plan, which relates to my my opinion that I drafted that you've got a copy of in here.
What do we have for a policy on that now as far as
Paul,
the late fees and shut offs and all that?
so as a policy for that, we did not have actual shut off documents, just notice and disconnect service and past due documents. I've included those drafts that I've created and the commission's already approved. But we're going to also have our legal have a second go at it and determine how right we are with them. I think they're pretty good. They're built out of the policy, but we're gonna make sure that we have that nailed down.
So the commission board already approved recently, obviously, some,
These two documents here, the past due reminder notice that gets sent out.
okay,
And then if they don't pay within, I think it's 10 days of that one, we send out the notice to disconnect service, which gives them another 20 days to pay.
okay, and I'm just asking that, as far as we go forward from here. That stuff will kind of come through the advisory board because we are the water guys that have been dealing with this for decades. And then it would get presented to the main board for approval. Is that kind of how it works?
That's what we'd like to do, depending on, what time constraints on certain items, but that would be the proper process. We want the board to have a look at it. After legal is already approved what we got, so that we could go back to legal and then back to the board if we needed to. And then bring that all back to the commission. We don't want the commission really seeing any of these until it's the last rendition of it.
Right, we should be doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. It needs to go over to the attorney and make sure everything's cool. And then it should be presented to the board at that point, saying it's gone through all the channels. What do you guys think? Yay or nay? Is that
Yeah.
accurate? Okay,
Yep, that is
all right.
accurate.
These past due, they all from active accounts, or they're from
Yes.
basically, I
So-
read some of the paperwork, is it from home sales, they weren't
Yeah,
collected? and passed
so
on,
the
or
very bottom
rentals?
portion are some inactive accounts that homes that have already sold. But those were leftover balances that weren't collected in by the previous accounting system.
Yeah,
And then the majority of all the rest of these are 2023 and newer. So they're part of what we consider our when the new accountant took over. And some of these are some of the higher ones are people who have been leasing homes from a builder, and they just never got paid, nor did we get to a shut off point because they didn't have these to really work the scenario. And some of them have made payments along the way, but they've always just continued to lag behind. And a few of these houses are the utility requests came across, and they will be selling before the end of the month.
But I'm assuming some of these fell during COVID too, because then you wouldn't be allowed to shut the water off.
No, well, not exactly. The previous administration wasn't shutting anybody's water off. So the bills would either rack up or they would get caught up. And some would just come in and finally pay. Some didn't know they needed to switch water over. So that was kind of an issue there. Nobody in the system now, they all know that we're the water system and we're the ones to pay. So going forward, we've got a handle on that. It's just getting to the point where we've got these notices that are official from the port to send out to. Gotcha. And didn't want to, try to go out and shut people's water off without a proper process.
no, that would be bad.
No, these two documents are detailed in our water policy, but there was no actual documents made when I took over the administration.
That was my next, is there a water policy that
There
documents
is.
all this stuff?
There is, and I'll send you a copy of that. It's about this thick, but the policy portion's only about that big. The rest of it is standards and.
Yeah, gotcha.
I haven't seen your guys' water policy, but I'm sure it's a big book.
Not too, I guess you're a real public entity, so it's like we're private, so it's a little bit different guidelines and rules and.
A little bit of leeway.
Yeah, it's a little more leeway on that, but yeah, we're pretty strict about collections and a lot of times we'll have most times it gets caught up with the title company on sale if someone's
Yeah,
paid.
right.
And so that's one of my questions. But
And that's where some of these are being caught up. I
Yeah,
actually
so-
filed 2 title requests today and sent them to title for both of them were about 1,000 in unpaid just water usage fees.
Yeah, and then
So-
what we have done is the title company hasn't found those, it's their job to find that. We've told the homeowner basically, you owe them, and your title company, you pay the title company, they should have contacted us and let us know that there's a transaction, and we'd have gave you the amount you owed for the water system.
Also, the title company wasn't contacted.
A couple times,
A couple
well,
times.
like a private sale, so
Yeah.
a lot of times there'll be a private sale, or you go through an attorney. That's
Gotcha.
usually what happens is,
Right.
and then, and it doesn't fall, it gets through the cracks, and no one ever contacts us to let us know that this place has been sold, so.
Do you have a like a way to watch that? So that you can go online and look at, houses that may be selling in the community to catch that? Or?
Usually we catch that when we do our billing, sometimes it's a year later when we do our yearly billing, and then we don't get a response. And then we gotta track down what's at the county, who owns the property, and then track down if it's a new owner, and then we go
Okay,
that
so
way.
sometimes you have to do it after the fact.
After, usually it falls about a year or so, year and a half behind is when we get it, and then,
But you're able to do it after the fact.
yes, we
Okay.
always accept, we always hold the, like I said, someone's responsible, and we're gonna get our money at the end, so if someone's responsible,
Right.
it's an error. Yeah, it was an error, but someone's gonna collect it, so it's either
Right,
comes
right.
to get it from the title company or get it from the new owner or what have you, but once they're advised, it's
90% of the time, the person that's living there, they want their name off the bill because they're moving on. And they don't want any ties to the building. 90% of the time that happens. And the other time it might be a renter or something, 10% of the time, and they don't really care because they ain't paying the bill for whatever reason. But when we get that notification, they're like, hey, I'm selling the house and I'm moving out at the end of the month. What day are you moving out? I'm moving out on the 31st. That's my last day. Shut the water off. Send the guy out. You shut the water off. You door tag the home saying water's been shut off. You need to contact the office. The new homeowner moves in and they show up and they're like, oh, this is great. I got my new house. Hey, I got a card here. Oh, I don't have any water. Better call. And then they call. And that controls a lot of it. You shut it off. You turn it back on. Once you get payment, you get the new person's information, you get all your stuff, you're good. Lots of times the title company will call and you'll hear about a lot of that, but I'm telling you, move outs and ins. That person wants their name off the bill, you go shut the water off and you door tag the home for the new homeowner to say, hey, we need to get your information.
Hey,
So-
Travis, in the, like, in the small water system I had, in the contract, it had basically the ability to lien, it was lienable.
Absolutely, that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Is
that's,
the port have the same,
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't.
it does, absolutely.
and is there a limitation? In other words, like, I mean, if somebody lives in a house for 10 years and doesn't pay,
That I don't know.
okay,
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
They should be on a policy, we should have a policy. and
I
I'm
do
hoping
know
we
that
get-
the statute of limitations is 6 years.
I'm hoping we get to a policy on the shut offs to where. Hey, you got your first bill and you didn't pay it, okay, hey, second bill goes out the next month, hey, you never paid your first bill, here's the total, you need to get this paid up. The third month rolls around, we send out another notice, and that's also to the property owner, if it is a renter, and also to the renter again, the third month. And saying, hey, we haven't got payment in the last couple months. Here's the new bill. And then right after that, a week after that, we send out door tags, we go hang the home, you're getting shut off, 24-hour notice. And they'll call and make arrangements, they'll get caught up. Or they'll pay half or something, and hey, pay a half again later. If they don't, we shut it off and it stays off, and it stays off till it's fully paid. So the bill should never be over a 3-month window of time. They should never get out of control. You will be able to control it within a 3-month window. That's how it should be.
that's kind of ours. But the difference of the HOA is that our water is combined with our dues, so it's not separated, so.
Right.
And we only deal with owners, we don't deal with renters, so we don't, it's not billed separately.
You know-
But that's how we do. Our shut offs is usually, was it December 1st? So the water gets shut off for Christmas time, so that's kind of when it gets to that point,
Right.
is that's when the shut off comes, and we never usually have a problem getting,
No,
getting payment.
it actually helps the homeowner or the tenant because they don't get thousands of dollars behind or so heavy that they're buried. And it actually helps the port too, to make sure that they're current and bills are getting paid and money's coming in. I'm a firm believer in shutting it off.
They must know there's a payment plan, you guys offer a payment plan too, and they get behind.
There is the possibility of a payment plan.
Yeah,
yes.
you should be able to work.
And one of the problems is that the policy lacks a lot of what we just started discussing. It doesn't detail all of those ways to get paid. It also doesn't detail when it doesn't give good detail to when houses change hands. There's literally, it's just that, the water stays on until the next person pays the next bill.
And part of the problem, as we've discussed a number of times, is that board had no contracts either. Whereas at least in our system, there was contracts that, ran with the property, so that was with the, property owner, not the tenant.
And that's state of Washington, it'll always go with the property owner, so that's why you, on that third notice, you send it out. And also, I'm a firm believer on this tenant problem, that the tenant comes in and says, hey, I am renting this house, I need the bill in my name. You have a sheet of paper from the district to the homeowner, and they have to sign it, acknowledging that the tenant is gonna be responsible for the bill. So now all of a sudden, we got this thing from the homeowner. Tenant's responsible for the bill. Hey, it's 3 months out, whatever. You knew right from the get-go.
Yeah,
So-
see, in our case, because we ran it with, smaller system, but ran it with the property. Anytime they wanted to pass it on to tenants, I said, no. You cannot, they don't have the legal interest, the same legal standing.
With the sheet, and sometimes if you bring all this up, the homeowner will say, okay, hey, just send me the bill.
Yeah.
I'll add it to
Yeah.
the deal.
Yeah.
But what happens is, people will get their water shut off. They will turn it back on. That's a tampering fee. We charge $250 for that tampering fee. And then we check it every day at that point, because they've tampered with it. We go back out, boom, they tampered again. That's another $250. We pull the meter at that point. They don't have a meter now. Then they get creative. They start putting pipes in there. They start getting creative.
The neighbors, friends' house.
Yeah, but we're checking it every day,
On the
so pretty
coastline.
soon the homeowner could end up with $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 tampering bill. I've got one now that we poured concrete over the top of the meter center.
Jeez.
Because it got so out of control. But that's where this paper comes in, the homeowner says, yeah, it's okay, go ahead and let the tenant have the bill. That's what we need.
So this is another contract that's alluded to in the water system policy that we do not have a correct sheet for.
It
That
sounds
needs to
like-
be worth, for sure.
Okay,
Sounds like Jim has some access to existing.
Yeah,
policy.
and an existing one like that, I'd love to be able to see, because I could probably re-angle it and then present it to the lawyers for their approval.
okay, so do you want a shut off policy?
Yeah, the shut off policy we should certainly need to make an addendum to our own policy and have a shut off policy, because the shut off policy is literally less than half a page written in our policy, and it's very big.
I wrote off shut off policy, I need to review that, correct? Okay,
And then before the next meeting, I'll have our developer contracts with the revisions
Oh, super.
for you to have a look at.
And so the board knows here, I have property up in this area and, I will let you know so that there's no conflict of interest, or if there appears to be one, I will disclose it. So that, because there is, some give and take, but the bottom line is, I think Travis has seen, at least to date, that my tendency is, if it's good for somebody else, it's good enough for me, meaning if I'm causing somebody else to pay, I'm paying that same bill too.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
That's come up numerous times already.
right. But I just want the
right.
other board members to understand, no. So that you're not surprised.
Right, I think good and fair and just and right policies across the board, and I think nobody gets, everybody's exactly the same across the
Yeah.
board, and if we start adjusting and Susie calls in and says, oh, I can pay in 2 more months, and oh, it's okay, Susie. No, it's not, this is the policy, this is what we gotta follow.
Right, also, with developers,
Yeah, no,
Me-
the
me
developers and.
me
actual
included
owners
as a
are no different.
developer. Same thing,
Right.
if it's good enough for, somebody else, it's good enough for me.
I'm hoping that, my goal is to make sure that there's the water main gets put in, we have all those contracts and stuff, and fire hydrants get put in, and all this stuff gets put in accordingly, and the rates are correct, and for the meter cost and all that stuff, because I know from the little district that I'm at. And what I do know around this area, Mason County, rates are way under what they should have been, and they've been really under. And we're still a fraction of what Kitsap County is and stuff, and we are getting taken advantage of. And that probably needs to be somewhat addressed, because these developers are coming in and they know what other districts and counties are paying. And we're like,
Right.
we as Mason County,
Right,
not just
no.
we here.
I've been involved, with the port, with their budgets especially since the last administration where things kind of came flying apart. And worked through that, and I've been, prior to this, I've been lobbying more or less. It's not the rates, but the issue is, I don't care what other water systems are paying. The issue is, do we cover our capital facilities? Do we cover our operations? Do we put a little bit away? If we're not doing those types of things, then, we need to look at the rates.
Yeah.
That
well,
doesn't mean that we're running efficiently or anything like this yet, but it just means there's a cost. And I started to lay out kind of an inventory for the port a little bit, and say, okay, here's your life, your equipment, you're gonna have to have some of these funds on the road.
Right, we gotta prepare for the future and
Yeah.
stuff. The little water tank up on the hill is not gonna be adequate in 20 years.
No,
And stuff, so there has to be enough in the fund to create that.
Yeah.
And
it's not there at this point.
it is not there, and we need to get there, and anyhow,
Yeah.
so
What is-
I don't wanna get off.
What is the
track.
basic water fee here?
But
A
basic
month?
water is $59.95, $60
Does
$60
that
bucks.
for the
include,
base rate.
does that include
Per
any
month.
water?
No, and then usage is charged by the
100 cubic foot.
100 cubic
Yeah.
foot. I can
And
break
then,
up
and
that.
then you guys charge a system development fee?
That would be when you purchase the meter.
Yeah, when you purchase the meter, you charge a connection fee, which is $5,250 for the connection fee, and a 15% administrative fee on top of that charge, and that's per ERU.
Right.
So it's $5,250 per ERU. And then there's a 15% administrative fee that the port just keeps on top of how many ERUs you buy in connection.
So if somebody wanted a 2-inch meter, it would be 10 times that, because a 2-inch meter is 10 ERUs per meter, so you would be 10 times.
Yeah,
that.
or whatever it's set in the policy currently.
But like a
Yeah,
residential connection, you're gonna pay $52.50
Yeah,
to
52.50
connect,
for the connection,
And
and
that's
that's for 5/8,
3/4.
3/4.
a quarter,
Yeah.
and then no other construction costs.
No,
just
there
flat
is,
fee?
there's, it's that flat for the connection fee, and then there's a $1,500 line extension fee. Which you pay when you apply to the port for extending a line. Even if you're extending the line. Even if you're just doing a hot tap off the main right to your house.
Still.
It's still $1,500 for the port to review and see your planning. If it's just that much where you're just hot tapping off the main and running a single line to your house, we will probably not require you to do engineering. We can do that, we can see that ourselves.
Is the port allowing individuals to hire whatever contractor they want, and they tap the water main and run it to the
The
meter?
port has to approve the contractor. Port does have to approve the contract. We would do the research to decide if that contractor is suitable for the port. There's also currently in the water policy, there's a $1,500 self-install fee. And that is if you're going to hire your own contractor to put in the line, and the port isn't going to be hiring the contractor to install the line.
Okay.
Now, we are working on changing that in our new contracting.
So it's $52.50.
$52.50 plus the 15% on top of that, $1,500 for a line extension fee, $1,500 for a self-install fee. And then the actual cost of the meter. We do a flat $200 on residential meters. And then anything more than a residential meter is actual cost.
I'm sure I'm gonna have plenty of homework over the next
Yeah,
month.
is that all written down somewhere?
Yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
I'll supply that also in the, I can, it's in the water policy, but I also made, it's about 4 or 5 page, like a synopsis when I first started, here running the place. That kind of details all that, so you don't have to dig it out of the water policy because it's in a bunch of different sections. You really have to, I mean, I got color coded tabs to find it all if I'm just going through the actual water policy. So I had the commission approve one document that has it all fairly organized.
I got a heavy suggestion, and it's certainly for down the road, but the water district, the port. Needs to take control of that, and the port puts in that line. From the main to the meter, the port handles all of that. It standardizes stuff, it has control over that, they're the ones tapping the main, they know where it's going, they know what it is. Yeah, just to have, anyhow, that's down the road, this is a suggestion.
One of the pitfalls that we ran into that was that the contractors would all have to pay prevailing wage to have it all installed. And it's a
Not-
huge cost.
It is, and it's not, because not all of them do. A lot of them are single owned business, father son type deal. They do not have to pay prevailing wage.
Only the owner doesn't have to.
Correct, so
all
there
the
is-
employees that work underneath them still.
There are several companies here, there's
that'll
at
do it.
least few of them that have father son as the owners, and they come in under the prevailing wage. Deal, so, and then, putting a little service line in, lots of times one guy does it. A few hours, but this is just down the road suggestions from me, and we'll deal with it,
You also
months
have-
later.
You have an approval list too. You have a certain number of people got on the port's approval list.
Right,
You-
right, yeah,
Now you
so-
get around
yeah.
that way too, approval list, and that way you give to, they know you as a port know who you depend on that actually can do work and follows up and do good work, and then that way it gives a list to.
Currently, the port can't use anybody that's not on the MRSC roster list for public works projects. So, but anybody can get on the MRSC roster list for free for up to 9 different institutions. By just filling out their paperwork and going through the process. So even mom and pop organizations can get on the list and then be added to, add the Port of Allen as one of their, available places that they can bid from. And then that's the way I'd like to see all of the work done in the port, because we want local people getting the money back from the
I was thinking
taxpayers.
the county does the same thing. You put
Yeah.
a septic in, they'll give you let's put 2 or 3 page list of all the contractors
Contractors that can-
that are approved
The
that they.
small work roster.
Yes.
And that comes from the
That's the same thing.
MRSC small works.
Anyhow, it's just, I don't wanna get off topic, and I'll be honest, I'm a real genuine, easygoing guy, but I did not know we were gonna be on film and very official here. I thought we were gonna be like, hey, we need to work on this and that, and we would go home and work on it and bring it back. Hey, we're good, I'm with you, so,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
No, yeah.
okay.
Anyway, so that was, what was that under the, we kind of skewed off from the financial report onto the.
Yeah, we kind of mixed in the new business at
Right,
that point,
okay.
for objectives and
Okay.
recommendations and duties.
I've looked at the list. There's some things I think to be added, or at least additional lines added to the task, the objective. But I don't want to make this a meat grinder process where we gotta go back and forth if possible, but at the same time. Hold on one second. So we're gonna go on to new business, discuss the recommendation of on objectives for the advisory committee. Is that correct? Okay,
Objectives of the advisory committee. So both these documents were something that needed to start with something.
yeah,
Definitely looking for any kind of advice from the board on which direction some of these could go, and maybe some of them are going the wrong direction. But just to start, to kind of put us into place, and we could create other outlines of a policy outline. For the water system, rather than, have it wrapped into duties and responsibilities or objectives or anything. So there's
I'm
definitely
always-
wiggle room.
I'm always good with objectives in the sense that that's kind of a, you gotta do something.
Yeah.
So I'm fine that in that concept. The only thing I had at all was under the sustainability and resource management. Was more or less dealing with what I call kind of a 1 to 2, 5 to 6, and 10 to 20 year planning. And basically was saying, create and develop the goals, plans, policies for more efficient potable water usage. I think this was dealing with the efficiency of this issue, because I have it under water usage. And part of that's dealing with the issue that I raised with you here a while back on the existing plan on your maximum daily demand and peak hour demand issues that we've talked about. Because, there's a couple ways to skin the cat there. One is data from our system. The other is, addressing where you got, how to make this system, more water usable, efficient.
Is there a plan? I mean, do you have a small water system management program
Yes.
for that one? For the
But
water
we
system?
never got that far. I got 355 pages to a plan finally approved by the Department of Health for, Group A.
Yeah,
But then we got in the contest and there was back and forth between our system, port system, and eventually, the port acquired our system.
before you had that done.
Yeah. Because I was coming, in other words, our system didn't have a reservoir. It had bladder tanks.
Right.
So, for example, with PUD, I could see every 15 minutes it come down through the table. So even with 21 users at the time, we never went over 33 or 32 gallons per minute peak hour demand, because I could tell how the pump kept coming on and looking at the PUD's numbers, because they were measuring every 15 minutes. And then any maximum dailies, we could also figure that out too. So, but we were just coming up on that phase of how to more efficiently run it, and then we got into negotiation of this.
Does the port have to have as a public, do you guys have a plan, or do they require that state management plan?
Yeah, their management plan, I believe, is required in the
Yeah,
water system
Yeah,
plan.
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, the overall plan, and it has a current one. But it was also approved in 2019.
Or
2017.
17.
And then amended in 2019. And the plan currently is we have that consolidation plan, which is later in the discussion, where we'll be tying the two systems together. After that, and while that is in process, we're going to have surveyors out that are actually going to survey and map the whole system to give us a full mapping. So we have a full system map that we can use to update our water system plan, which will need those efficiency standards also looked at as well.
Right.
So that's something that our engineer is actually working on, and we've got money budgeted in our drinking water state revolving fund loan to do that.
Just for background, for example, in their current plan, their maximum daily demand with all the factoring, what had is roughly 690 some gallons per day maximum. But it's based upon some readings way back when, and I believe that they had leaks going, because after 3 or 4 years of my collection of data on roughly 21 users, we never had that, and we actually got approved by the state at like 303 or something like that, 310, somewhere in that gallons per day as the maximum daily demand.
Okay.
And so our systems, other than the commercial part that you serve, are serving similar type parcels and sizes and what have you. The weird part was you had some waterfront homes. I believe there was probably some leakage issues going on, because it was way high. There was a couple of readings way high, but back then, that's what they did. They just took the number and ran with it. So like I say, it's like almost 700 gallons maximum daily demand. Whereas on mine's was, and when I say mine, it's no longer mine,
Yeah.
it's the ports, but on that system that was.
Was it metered?
Oh, yeah,
At
yeah,
that time, you
yeah.
did it by the meter, not
yeah.
by the
Oh, yeah.
connection.
So, and we had the loss, we knew our losses, you know, as far as leakage and things like that. We had that reasonably nailed down. But I didn't have the luxury of a big reservoir. So things are more real time as far as the pumps. And-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Track it.
Whereas with the port, it's like comes down and it pumps and then goes back up and it's stable for a while and then, you know, it draws down and comes back on.
Is there no SCADA system here at all as far as tracking that? Okay.
No. No, and
I
it's,
have an outlet for that. That's very reasonable SCADA system. It's very simple. You can't get to it on your phone and all that. It's just very simple, but it will track some serious data and keep records and stuff, and it's reasonable. So, okay,
Okay.
and that's something in meetings we've had with Mike that I was at least around that we had discussed that we need that ability because we need to get to that, knowing really what the port's maximum daily, what the peak hours are really.
And that sounds like something we should be investing in pronto, really.
I guess, is there a plan already in place or like a strategic plan about, like you said,
not-
5-10 years down?
No,
You know, it says
not really.
what your
Yeah,
infrastructure
there-
is, there's nothing in place.
Well,
that
they had
says-
they had a plan, when you submitted the plan to state, you had concepts, you know, like, we're gonna need to get this, take care of or this or that. The problem is it didn't match. And then with the lack of management on the port side prior to Travis's tenure. You know, if you don't match it and you don't follow it and a few things, it just, there's no connection.
right, I know.
So, my opinion, likewise, we need to get there, but, you know, as you're becoming aware, it's like you need to get you need to get the port financially viable, and you need, you know, as far as the water system, you need to keep all the expenses to the water system and not to the general fund. And we're over the last 12 months, that's what we've done. Because if you saw this 12 months ago, you would basically say, holy crap. I mean, that sums it up right there.
So you never had a small water system management program that approved by the state for the?
No, I did.
You did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it didn't have things like this, and it didn't have how I was gonna meter like with a SCADA type system and things like that. It never got that far. Mine was by brute force and brain, you know, reading.
So you wait until after the systems are combined and looked at to do one, or is that?
Yeah, to relook
What's
at
it-
what we already have.
And then you're gonna hire an engineer to develop that plan?
Yes,
Okay, I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. yeah, that's the plan. I understand.
Right.
I would like to be able to. Maybe all three of us get together. You certainly know your system and Travis and everybody. But I'd like to get all of us to get together and actually go up there on the hill and say, okay, this is the water tank. We should have about 6-inch main here. We got 4-inch main. I want to see.
That's my next question.
What
Is
is
there
our-
a map of both systems that shows all?
Yeah.
that?
That's literally what there's a map of Jeff's system. And there is partial maps and configurations over several years of the port
You're
system.
saying it's worse than our system?
Don't
Yes.
it?
Come on now, come on.
He's
now.
on live.
I-
He's
I-
live.
No, your maps were better than the port's.
Okay,
But I wanna go up there in person. I wanna see what's going on. I'm a very visual guy. I wanna. See where we're at. So,
yeah, I didn't
I'd
know
like-
what we're talking about the water system. I don't even know where it's at.
yeah.
What connects to,
I
or
think.
Yeah,
it'd be
so
viable.
system goes where.
In-
So 200 feet that way is the main well that served the entire Port of Allen system since its inception. Right
Which-
there on the beachhead,
Which is going to become the backup.
which is going to become the backup because 2/3 of a mile that way is Jeff's system or Jeff's former system.
And that's up on the hill.
Up on the hill, which is 200 feet away from the water tank, downhill from
How many gallons a minute does that produce?
Now it produces 50,
50.
but,
It's upgradable.
Right.
And how far down does the water system go that way?
It goes all the way to Lakeland Drive and then cuts across the road.
Oh, okay, so that's where it stops at.
Yeah, so it's, so the water system goes to Lakeland Drive and takes a hard right up the hill.
Does it feed the restaurant?
nope.
It doesn't.
Commercial? Doesn't, so
It
it's
doesn't.
just
It,
right.
it feeds the donut shop.
Are we gonna be able to do that? Maybe get together and kind of look? and
Yeah,
see?
yeah.
Okay, that'd be great.
No, I mean, if, we could even schedule that tonight, if everyone's got their schedule
Yeah.
planables. And it can be on a weekend even too.
Might only take an hour just to
Yeah.
go up there and.
I'm lucky in that I've spent the last 25 years in this neighborhood.
Right, you've
And
already
so,
seen it.
so it's kind of like, I can shut my eyes and I can tell you what parcel number it's on.
Sure.
Unfortunately.
But once it actually goes up Lakeland Drive, it takes another hard right and it goes down Wheelwright, which is the central
That's what
thoroughfare.
yours is
In
feeding all the new
Wheeler.
houses up there, is that?
No,
No?
no, it's a mix.
Yeah,
It's because we won't go into the gory details, but the short and sweet is one party probably wanted to see me disappear. You know, as far as the water purveyor. Well, you know, so there was a fight, there was arguments of who's serving who. I had the service area, but the port approached. Fine, we've made amends without getting legal. And
Between the two systems, that's
yeah,
down here from here
Bas-
down and then.
basically
the
this side of the power lines.
Yeah.
This side of the ridge. Most above Highway 3 except for strip. The strip between the vape shop and Big Bubba's is on Washington
part of
Waters.
Washington Water, yeah.
So there's a strip
Small
maybe
Washington Water.
300 feet, 400 feet wide.
And then Lakeland has the rest of the hillside.
They do, but they won't go past what they call the village. If it's not in what they call the village.
And
which
see,
is
that
right
gets-
on that ridge line.
that gets into
then
what they
don't-
call the
don't-
service
They don't want to
areas.
serve anyone.
And that was the problem that the Department of Health did not enforce or correlate or synchronize the service areas. So the Lakeland stops at a point, makes sense. That's what their service area is. Northwest or Western Water just kind of blatantly moved up the hill. I came across this way, so we started, there's a place where there's actually at least three service areas over.
Three service layers
Overlap.
overlapping. And if the port wants to provide water in that overlapping service area, it has to get denial letters from the other preparers that they are unwilling to serve.
Which I'm no longer am, so that's one less.
So it's just one letter from Washington Water.
But someone in that area says, if one of those, you'd still drill a well. If you want to in one of those, in one of these areas.
Technically, anybody, it's not like a water district, so you don't
Yeah.
have,
Yeah. Yeah, there's no restrictions.
You just
on it,
restrict
yeah.
on the size of the lot to be separated from.
right.
Right, and
building
sanitary setbacks and everything
setbacks.
else. The biggest problem is that
These are-
it's just not cost effective.
Right.
And it's small, up in here, small lots as compared to Belfair. I mean, Belfair's
I'm just
starting to get
comparing,
some
I
now.
just drilled a well and I just developed a lot in Union and paid the PUD quite a bit to connect to the water system. So I'm trying to
Sure.
see how these costs are coming into play.
Sure.
No, I mean, when we purchased Jeff Carey's well system, we had to buy 8 lots to take up the sanitary setback.
Cause they needed 3/4 an acre for the circle, but the way the plat is, and even there, we did boundary line adjustment, so they would only have to buy 6 lots. Instead of, 8.
Right.
So back to the objectives. I mean, I could submit this to you, and just say, I only added 2 things. One is then create and develop goals, plans, policies, and more effective utilization of port's water rights. That's this whole kind of thing of trying to maximize your connections without more infrastructure.
And that's my biggest, I just want to see the policies in place. I'm about the legalities, the liabilities,
yeah,
and if it's not written down, I just go over our attorney, Rob Rosenhaus, who represented us, and he was always, it's not written down, you're not following your policies and procedures, you fall into problems. So you always start with your
great.
policies and procedures, follow those to a T, never deviate unless you want to make changes.
Yeah, sounds
And
right.
so that's kind of what I want to see first is what those are your structure, your fee structures, and what's actually written down, so we can see what they gotta pay and how they gotta do it, what happens when they shut the water off, that sort of thing.
I had a
And,
couple things.
I'll
too.
have copies of those to you here tomorrow, at the latest. Definitely, like you said, the policies are the key to running the water system. I mean, if it's not in there, then it's not something you can do technically.
I had a couple things to add. No, I've been on vacation for a week and a half, so I just got in last night. I'm sorry, but
No problem.
I did write on here that we should, as far as the advisory committee that I understand, we should be able to review the plans for the new constructions and stuff coming in. I'm very good at that. If you're just relying on the engineers alone, they're certainly human and they certainly miss stuff and they are not out there or have been out there in the ditch for 20-something years, and we should be able to kind of go over that before it goes to the engineer. Still has to go to the engineer for approval, but we should be able to have our hands in that.
Travis and I will testify to that, won't we, Travis?
Yes, we will.
We have seen that in a grand scale, in the last 6 months, right?
We're thankful to have the engineer that we do now because.
Who is your
square head on the shoulders.
Who is it?
Mike Michaels of West Sound Engineering.
He used to be with City of Shelton Water.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with him and I use him also.
As far as anything else in the objectives, what I'm hearing is people say, hey, let's get the policies out in front of us and let us dig, right?
Yeah, I agree. That's what I wrote down to.
I think that's
Proceed.
just, I'd say it's the first start is reviewing that, and reviewing how you're paying for things and starting there and.
Right, I have a running start, not in that direction, but in the direction of, trying to make it system viable, been working with Travis on certain aspects of that. And of course, we have those other opportunities.
Yeah, I come just trying to keep everything working and make sure you have reserves in place to.
Right, because the
to pay
reserves,
for everything.
reserves are not there.
And yeah, right, looking at this, it's like, wow,
Yeah, no,
like, wow,
No,
something should have been done a long time ago to get this.
no, the
Get those water
reserves,
reserves up there,
reserves are
but-
not there.
But you're you're charging quite a bit too, so it's like, wow. It's not
But I mean, there's a reason for where it is. I mean, the short and sweet is that policy was not followed. The oversight wasn't there. And that's one of the things we need to have going future, because I don't plan to be on this forever. I want to go away and say it has the oversight mechanism so that other people can now
Oh,
just do.
absolutely, yeah.
But it did not, things did not get taken care of. There were connections made prior to payment.
Yeah,
that's
horrible.
something we're dealing
Yeah.
with, right, currently still.
And
that's horrible.
that's one big piece of, in my opinion, I'll say opinion because but my observation, my opinion is that because that wasn't taken care of, it's put the forest water system in arrears, at least $100K.
No, that's a serious problem. They don't get water until it's paid. I mean, we don't set the
But this
meter.
is
until
on,
it's paid.
and this was on the developer side. This is,
Right,
it's even,
correct.
so I mean, it wasn't individual users, it was, a developer and unfortunately it went south and now it's, we have to dig it out of the hole that it's in and move forward.
Is that the developer of the properties up here, the houses? Is that south, what's it called,
Yeah.
south
It's all
townhouse or
the,
something, or what is?
it's all the properties that were put in by the largest landowner up there.
Oh, it's not
And
the
developer.
South Sound or,
No, it's
Kitsap,
not, yeah, it's
however,
not south. No, housing Kitsap.
Housing-
No, it's not housing Kitsap. In fact, $69,000 check that we deposited was from housing Kitsap.
Okay.
So
Great.
and that was a collaboration on getting a contract in place on engineering that was started before I even took over here.
Or a better way of
That
putting
they
it,
were not under contract, but now they are under contract. So-
another way of putting it, they started without a review at the port.
Yeah, no, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
We had to go after the fact. We
And
got
put
the
it-
review by the port after the fact, and we put everything into place, and then we got them to agree to a contract that was brokered between our lawyers and their lawyers. And
I
now
dug into
we're,
that.
and
I
now
did-
we're settled
did a
on
little bit of
that.
homework, so.
Right. And they're also, now at this point, they also understand what's expected of them on the future contracts, because the one that they did, the one-off they did is very similar to the approach that we were trying to go with.
Okay.
Which there has been talk of them buying more property.
Anything else we'd like to discuss on the duties, or, the duties, no, the objectives. Discuss recommendations and objectives of the advisory committee, anything?
I just had the review of the plans, that's all I had.
And then you had, what was the provision that you were suggesting, Jeff? I didn't get it written down.
At what point are we, oh, you mean that I read?
Yeah,
That was under
Was-
objectives.
was that an addition that you made? to it,
Yeah,
or-
yes, and I'm happy, I can give it to you. I can give it to you.
Okay, yeah, no, that's great.
Let's just do that way you can
Oh,
get
you
it.
redlined it?
Yeah, and then just that way, and I always change the color, italicize, so that, you don't want it, cut it, fine, if it makes sense. So,
And
but
you
then,
get, I had a question I have over your discussion on the stuff is, have you guys done all the new lead copper testing?
Yep.
And then have you completed the LSLI?
Yep,
Your lead,
yep,
you did that,
yep, that is all done.
how did you complete that?
I worked really hard. It took up all my time for about a month.
So you did it yourself?
Yes.
You didn't hire anybody, you just?
No, I went out and crawled under houses with Donnie and we identified all the
You just
materials.
identified the best of your abilities.
Plus we also had the fact that all the houses were built
yeah, we had all the permits.
pretty much
Post,
post 2004.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, except for the ones here on the water. So all the ones on the water here, we had to literally do the investigation ourselves. But everything up in the plat was all
Yeah.
way before,
Way
after
after.
1986. Like in your situation, almost all of those houses started before 86.
But we've dug up every single, pretty much 99.9% of every single line. That's what I'm going off on me and my 25
We
years.
did too.
Yeah.
I know pretty
We
much
dug them up.
every single line and what it's actually made
Right.
of. And so I'm trying to complete that right now. Did you use their form or did you just do your own?
So we, so I found a program in the state that literally, the state paid for a private entity to literally create all the spreadsheets for us. And then literally I gave them all the addresses and then they provided me with all the information that they could, and then I filled out the rest of it going forward. So they did a lot of the heavy lifting on that because I found a program that the state literally it was a free program for municipalities.
And all you do is input the addresses, input.
Yeah, all I had to do is put in the addresses for the ones that were built after 86, and they literally populated all the fields. It was all the houses down here on the water that we had to do individually. Was the tough part too.
I just heard today on the lead line survey. The state is gonna be coming down. They feel that a lot of the information that they've gotten is possibly altered or misleading on some level. And that there is another form coming down. It's about a 10 or 12 questionnaire. And it's a verification process.
Okay,
So that's coming. So
okay,
it's
yeah,
another form to fill out.
great.
On going through exactly what happened and how you did it, so. Okay,
Great. I haven't done mine yet. So I'm in violation.
yeah, we dug up every one and.
So you dug up every single one? Or?
Every single one, yeah, we dug up every single one, both sides and,
Wow.
and did it and, we got it in.
Okay, any questions? Okay, any further discussion on the objectives for the advisory committee? Okay, discuss and make recommendations on the duties and responsibilities of the advisory committee. It's only kind of a technical term. I don't know if we're an intermediary between the community or liaison between the community. Since we're advisory committee, I'm not sure which one legally we should be saying, there in that first paragraph, under the duties. Intermittent.
The advisory committee's role is to act as an intermediary between.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're supposed to do that.
Okay.
No, I would say not, the community should not be coming to us directly at all, no. No,
I
they
mean,
have the board, commission board and Travis.
I mean, I think we can seek out, comments from the public and what have you, but I don't think you want us being that,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure that I want to be that either.
You put you guys at risk anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know if we want-
So anyway,
Okay, no, I
you,
can
you
see what
hear,
you're saying.
yeah,
I'm just trying to figure out a way how to reword it.
yeah, and it's fine. I'm just saying that's my 2 bits on it, and otherwise I'm fine with the duties. And every time you put like financial oversight, I always say financial and systems operation. Because it's basically the finances, been the key issue, but also the operations is part of it too. And you want the ability for oversight, like in your item 7. So I just kind of look at the big picture, say the financial and the systems operations. As far as oversight.
Really like to break down the financial oversight. in
Not,
7,
not break down, add to.
Add to it.
Yeah.
Add to it the
Under operational guidelines.
Okay.
Go ahead,
what do you want to, what,
and I'll be happy to give you this.
okay, you'll take,
Yes,
what did you want to add to the financial oversight?
well, I'm just saying, what I'm trying to say is, it's both financial and systems operation oversight.
There it is.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not, what you have there is fine. I'm just saying that
Yep.
we have issues of oversight and operations, and we have issues in finance. And that's all on that. And then you have these operational guidelines. I think the commission reserves the right, what you got there. And then I added a sentence, to execute or not execute in whole or partially, is what I'm trying to say. Their last line. The commission could choose not to do any of it. They could choose the partial. Again, we're just advisory. I can leave it at that. Others? Anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
No,
or
I
take
agree
away?
with you, Jeff. I agree with you.
Discuss and make recommendations on financial status. What did you have in mind there? It's a little wide open there.
Which one is that? Is it not?
Number 8, the last one. New business, discuss. And make-
Oh.
what issue are we addressing with financial status is what, I guess.
Oh, so basically the financial status report. Discuss and make recommendations on financial status would be like, so how do we talk about getting back to where we should be? And we've kind of discussed that already a little
Right.
bit.
There's,
It's about nailing down what we need to be putting away, find out how much we should have put away over the years that we haven't, and find out what that target number is for us to be okay today.
in big broad,
Or in the future, at the
Big
next
bu-
meeting or the meeting after that, so remember you made that list where it was like,
Yes.
this is what we need to put away each year, it was like $18,000 a
Right,
year or something
right.
like that. So if we go back to when we, say we go back 10 years,
right?
how much should we have been putting away 10 years ago till now to be where we should be?
And
To
I'd
be
like,
able to take care of
I'd like to bring that list back to the committee so they could see, because they have experience that I don't have. And they could see, and then there might be other additional items or ways of looking at it. That was a first attempt to kind of inventory what I saw the port had. Put a cost to it. And then a life expectancy. And then say, okay, 20 years out, you might have to do this, 50 years out, you might have to do this.
Right.
And if you had to do that, it was only in today's dollars, not inflationary, but
Sure.
but in today's dollars, what did that mean you have to do to set aside? And that's kind of what I think Travis, you're alluding
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
And that's basically how they come about it. We just hired and paid for a professional firm out of Seattle to evaluate the entire system, and they took our capital improvement projects that we want to do and all of that stuff. And they rolled everything in and they came back saying, here's what your rate should be. here's what the connection fees are, here's this,
Yep.
here's that. Now, it cost to do that.
Yeah.
But we made that money up in the first meter we sold, the first 2-inch meter we sold. That money was back and went up and rolling. Now, we had a grasp on what it
Right.
should be. I had adjusted the rates before that, a year or two before, like, hey, I did a little mini rate study with other districts around, and I adjusted the rates, and we hired the professional firm, and it came back, and it was very enlightening. It was really enlightening. Now, I understand we probably don't have the money to do that, but I agree, that's basically how they came up with it.
Right.
What's your capital improvement projects, what's your timeframes for these, how many connections you got, what tank sizes you have, what
Yeah.
and they came up with the numbers.
We'll probably have to do a more
I think,
entry level, for lack of a better
Yes.
word.
What's the biggest project that, for the two being combined, what's the biggest project in the future?
The biggest project is the consolidation.
The combining.
Combining of the two systems currently.
And if you read the 11-page thing, because I read it and then I had some questions for the engineer, and now I understand. The engineer prepared what he thought he wanted to present to Department of Health. Because I asked this, because I said, it's not talking about putting an electronic control in my pump, in my old pump. And he said, no, I'm wording it to work with the system and Department of Health. But part of it is they will do this, and this. You know, which is basically get my well to produce the water that's needed. And with what he did in what did he call the test? There was a name for the test. He keeps, calls it out, but
Yeah.
anyway, it was a test for flow and points
Yeah,
and
I read about that.
Yeah. And so it came out reasonably better than I thought it would be. In other words, I was concerned, I've been telling the port for ages, I think this is what we got if you take my system on, but I'm not an engineer.
right,
And so, but I said, as a layperson, I can go through the numbers and this is what it should be. And I was tickled pink to see that when the engineer finally understood what I was presenting to him, because it took a couple rounds, because he had an approach, like you mentioned engineers do, and I kept tickling him with, hey, try it, and it didn't go over the first 2 times. I tried a 3rd time, finally, oh, I got what you're saying. And then he extrapolated on that and worked the whole system as if that was going to be the approach. And he came back, and at least with Travis and I, that it serves a lot more users than we anticipated.
But I guess there's no plan to like add a reservoir. If you're using tanks to add a
Not
reservoir like
currently,
that.
not
to make the
currently,
system
but,
work.
but we do know that if we want to expand this, past a certain point, that, another reservoir would be needed in the
Right.
future.
And see, this is part of this study also, though, the engineering has to do with, your maximum daily demand and peak hour demand and all this that really needs to be ground through. See, my wiring is, I always try to do a complete system, but with spending as little money as possible, so that the user gets the best benefit. But, it's proper, it's to code, it's, safe, like all those kind of things. It's just my mentality. It's just,
oh,
Yeah, like I said, we try to do ours with as low cost as possible,
Yeah.
but like I said, doing this, is there things that can be done, like when you're doing this engineering? While you're just doing something, can you add that into plan for the future? Is report saying that
Yeah.
in the future, and you went over this, then you'd recommend putting a reservoir if you have property that's already designated for
Right.
that. I don't know if you do, if there's property already up there designated an area for a reservoir, is that something that down the road,
right.
15 years?
And I think a lot of that's gonna come out in the water system plan update.
Oh, on the
Yeah.
years.
Right.
Water system
Well,
plan.
yeah, so we can show that, what our possibilities are through the years, because the previous plan was to put a monstrosity
Oh, yes.
booster pumping system up there with a giant house, and it had 5 booster pumps in it. And 2 of them were fire flow pumps, and
See,
by the time we looked at it again, and started like digging into it, it was $250,000 for the work.
and,
Like you were doing
and-
right now.
and
Which
see-
which wasn't gonna be, wasn't feasible for
well, yeah,
what we needed.
yeah, and see, it's not that the engineer designed it wrong. It's that they didn't take the time to look at the zoning. They didn't
Right.
take the time to look and say, okay, can we or not cross Tacoma City Lights right away? Because that's a very expensive proposition with them. They're really touchy about putting anything through their right of way.
Well, it's obvious we have a lot of lifting to do
Yes.
here, and I think over the next year, we can probably work through a lot.
Yeah.
Here, and then I'm gonna say again, I think year, maybe two, if the district can professionally hire a rate study firm, I think it'd be beneficial. It would set the district up for 10 years down the road. Because when we got our deal, it says the following year you need to do this, following year you need to do that. And it's real, and I'm hoping we can kind of work through some of this. I think that the port is on the right feet now as
Right,
far as
sure.
everybody's actually genuinely involved and looking now. And I think in a year or two, the port will be really on good footing, and I think highly suggest that they do the rate study
Sure.
for the water system. If you
No.
do not have the funds coming in, if you do not have that, you have nothing. You are still continually struggling. And it's very important. So,
Got it. Okay, so with the responsibilities, anything else anybody would want to add? Okay, discussion items. I think everybody saw the tank cleaning report,
yeah, I was looking through it, yeah.
and one thing that is at least Travis mentioned to me was that and I guess it's called out in the end of the report, is that at some point here in the near future, we're gonna have to address that outlet to the tank.
Yeah, grade 3 called it or something.
Yeah, grade 3 on
Grade 3, approximately 1/3 of the surface is rusted.
In the outlet, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think this was great, by Travis or the board, whoever. Wanted to get this thing dove and cleaned up and see what's going on. This was great. You have to have a baseline, you have to know what you have
Right.
before you can build anything. And this is the part of a foundation,
Sure.
at least you know that, so.
after we pay the bill, they'll give us the video, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, this is
Is
great.
that the first time it's been done?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, so this is real stuff.
And my next question is, how much does that cost?
11,500. 11,500. Actually, no, it was 12, it ended up being 12,000. Tax.
Real.
and everything.
and
And that's because they take our tank and they take the size and then they kind of gauge what it's really gonna take to finish the work. And some of the requirements are, you can't have more than 4 inches of sediment at the bottom. Otherwise, you get charged more. And then if it's gonna cost a lot more if it's chlorinated, because they have to chlorinate the water as they discharge it. And then there's a few factors that can make.
Did
it
that,
go
was
up.
that the only company you guys found, or did you?
Yeah,
go through
that's a
you?
company called Liquid Vision out of Oregon.
They've been around for a long time, yeah.
I just, we did ours, I couldn't, after I saw that, I spent $5, but we did something out of Montana.
Okay.
They came out and was really reasonable, but. Yeah,
No,
we need to do ours again
great.
too.
No, and it's a, you put it on a maintenance schedule every 3 to 5 years. Just do it. And now we know that we've got a a discharge line that is a third restricted at least. That's a lot of slag on there. That's a heavy buildup.
Were they able to determine on how far in that went?
No, they didn't actually say, never could.
Okay.
It kind of looks like it's built up just on the end and then it
That's what
kind
I
of
wondered.
curves around and doesn't.
That's what I'm thinking too, Trevor. I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's just on the end. I don't think it goes deep into the pipe or anything.
They could have got that when they were in there, but okay. Yeah, that's what I'm looking in the picture. They could have got.
next job, right? Okay. Anything else with the tank thing? The 5-year sanitary reports, both for the port system and the Allyn Carey.
Yeah, and That happened back in October.
Seems like everything was good, wasn't it, except for the tank outlets and inlets.
No, yeah, for the sanitary,
Service.
survey, it was, it had more to do with a few other different things. They didn't have any, they didn't have any concerns that literally like, were like violations or anything.
No, it's just a recommendation for the.
Yeah,
tank,
just a
just that tank cleaning recommendation was
Right.
on the outlets.
And,
outlet.
and your drawings
And
Yeah, and the drawings,
and
for the
map.
port system.
which
Is that-
we are currently addressing drawings, so. The other thing is that we had, some insulation around it. One of our drain line up there at the tank, and, we got rid of that. And we still haven't created a solution yet, but I did have, Dawn just wrap it here with some insulation temporarily because of the temperatures. And then have them take that back off when the temperatures come back up. But we need to either get some kind of battery heat tape around it or something, so that we don't have insulation up there for the rats to live in.
Yeah, I'd like to look at that. Maybe we can look at
Yeah,
that when we go up
No way
there.
to find how they're
Might have
getting.
another ideas.
Oh, and it's just on the outside of the tank where that, where there's a stub out that's.
Oh,
loaded with
offside,
drain.
okay.
Yeah, and they would just, Larry had Don build a little box around it with insulation to keep it from freezing. And we need to find a better system. I mean, some heat tape with a battery and a small solar panel would take care of the whole thing. It doesn't need much. Cause it's a 4-inch line sticking out of there. It takes a lot to freeze that.
Okay, and then the DOH consolidation report, submission. My only question on that is, when did that go in roughly?
3 weeks ago now.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
We'll hear soon.
I think we have 60 days to respond.
Everything I sent in the past, it was always 90, but this may be.
Yeah, I
different.
know they passed a, I think they passed a law that they have to get, they have to respond within 60 now.
As far as the labs,
This was for the engineering at DOH to look at.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
have
reports.
DOH approve or ask for, changes.
So,
And when was that purchase made for that, for the other?
So the infrastructure was purchased in April last year.
Okay, what was it?
And then we did a second closing because of some boundary line adjustment, professional services
delays.
Yeah, that's the best way I'm gonna describe that. And we now own all the property. We still have a holdback that we're working through with a new adjusted idea of how we can utilize the money that would be spent on our overall
As built. yeah.
as-built for the entire system, rather than Jeff paying the engineer to just draw as-built for his system that we require. So,
In other words, I provided them as built, they're very close to what they are, very
Right.
close. But every time I had like my own rules where basically if we cross a line, I want to take a measurement. I want to know because,
how deep it is,
How
where
deep-
it's,
yeah,
what's going
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had like 123 updates over a 6-year period. And I posted it, but we got delayed by drafters and surveyors and stuff like this. And so in the process, because the outcome of one of the report on the port system and what West Sound was talking about, they said, okay, we can do it for this. And I said, okay, the whole back you held on me, I'll basically, this is what I budgeted for. Fine, I'll match that, match the other, make an agreement and we'll get this thing done. Next meeting date.
so I kind of preemptively just set it up for the first Tuesday of the month, unless anyone's got a problem with that.
No,
No,
That'll be
that
good for me.
actually clears everything amazingly.
Okay.
Amazingly.
I got a
I'll be in
question.
Arizona after that. That's great.
Oh, right on. I got a question before we kind of
Sure.
get to the adjournment.
Yeah.
Exactly what would you like me to work on? What would you like the board to work on over this next month?
So-
What do you need?
So I think our first area of responsibility is to get a solid opinion on our policies. And then also incorporate the opinion on the policies with the contracts that I send over that are our draft contracts for developers. Because the idea was with our law firm is to create the developer documents and get them where we want them to be and then adjust the policy to fit them. Because then we know we have legal documents that are standing in binding. But we were gonna need to have those policy,
So if I hear, what I hear you saying is basically, we should look at the existing policies you have, get that in our head, but you got something coming that we're gonna have to obviously make adjustments
right,
for.
and what I'll do is I'm just gonna give those both to you in the same email, because I
Okay.
have them now.
Okay, good.
I've made some adjustments, I'm still waiting for them to take my comments and add them if they are legally, they'll work legally, correct?
Okay.
I spent like a day going through the contracts and adding a bunch of comments.
So if we could get those,
Right,
then I think that'd make at least our first homework assignment to get up to speed for the next meeting.
I agree. I'll make notes for changes or ideas that I got and
Yeah.
I'll bring them in
Yeah.
at the next meeting.
Yeah.
While we're all talking here, and this kind of big meet and greet here, but I'm hoping over the next year or so, that I'm very much a proponent for chlorine. We need to chlorinate. That's very important. It's absolutely controllable. Minimal chlorine's great, but we need to chlorinate. There is a tremendous amount of stuff that actually can happen without the chlorine, and the chlorine is a little insurance policy. It protects the district at the end of the day. So we need to chlorinate.
I'd like to look at the big picture, because I've always kind of been, I'll say it straight up, anti.
I'm saying just because we're on our system.
But that-
Oh, I get
For a long
it.
time.
And right up the
but-
hill, there's another large system that doesn't chlorinate.
Yeah.
I'm saying we need to chlorinate. I just found out 6 months ago.
And what I'm trying to say to you too is that I'm open and I want to hear, even if I have a preconceived idea what I want to do. So just letting you know that my mind's not in concrete. I'm willing to listen.
And I know chlorine's like, oh boy, we don't need to do that. It'll change the taste of the water. But at the end of the day, you need the quality water. I just found out 6 months ago that, did you know that staph infection can actually grow in water?
yeah.
And actually transfer to you. That's the thing. You know what the chances of the staph infection actually growing if you chlorinate?
0?
0%.
Yeah.
So it's a very big thing, but it opens up a whole nother issue. You have to do residuals daily. You have to send in a report to the state. It's not a big deal, but all this has to be dealt with.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm very much a proponent for chlorine, and I'm hoping in a couple year window, we can
Yeah.
do that. So.
Well, let's look at the data and let's look at the
Okay.
education. As much as anything. I appreciate that. Anything else for the order of this meeting? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Now, second.
Been moving second, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Um,